that from time to time, even in great localities, you've seen it happen in New York a couple of times, in the last 30 years, where the swing in properties values has just been huge. And what we see in our residential brokerage business, and we're in, I don't know how many different states, is we see a slowdown every place. Now, we see it most dramatically in some of what have been the hottest markets. And the markets where you're going to, in my view, you're likely to see the greatest fall off and where you've had the biggest bubble are the ones tend to be the high-end market, and they tend to be ones where people have bought for investment or speculation rather than use.
So where we see the biggest fall off are the people that are buying homes, and I'm going to use the term hyper leverage or super leverage. And you'll see these guys on TikTok say, you can buy this house for $100,000, put 20 grand into it, and now it's worth $160,000 or $200,000, and get a mortgage on it and refinance it and pull all the equity out and then take that money and buy another property, and you can buy this and this. And again, there's a couple problems with that. The first is if you're super leveraging everything like that, you really don't have any equity. I know you think you do because you got the home to appraise at $200,000 and you were able to pull the money out and you got a bank to lend it to you on it. Honestly, shame on the bank for that more than anything. But the fact that you're borrowing and buying another property with the money that's borrowed on that, again, I don't see how that works. But when you have that kind of speculation going on, and I do think you have a fair amount of that going on right now. But the part of it that I think is going on that's really different is there's two different things going on. One is I think you have those hyper leverage guys that are doing that kind of stuff. But I think you also have a bunch of Airbnb people who do not understand the dynamics of actual rental. And I think that's coming around and biting them in the butt. Now, are there enough Airbnb properties out there to take down the entire market? I don't think so. And I say that because you get a little listings like this where they're telling you that in certain areas, things are down 50% and it's going to bring down the whole market. And don't let stuff like this freak you out because, again, I'm not saying that Airbnb doesn't work. It does. I just don't think it can be done on a wholesale scale. Okay. I think there are certain properties that work and certain properties that don't. I think you can have some properties that people think they can rent it out 24/7, 365, and they'll be lucky to do it on the Airbnb side at 60% of the time, where they'd actually be better off just renting it as a long-term rental rather than short-term. That's just me. Other part of this I wanted to focus on is Dave Ramsey's video here I want to bring up. And for the most part, I'm going to agree with what Dave's going to say here, but there's a part that I'm going to have a question on here in a second.
Well done. Well done. Okay. I would buy now, regardless of interest rates. Here's what I don't know to 24 months from now. I don't know what interest rates will be. I do know house prices will have gone up 7 to 8% a year during that time.
Now, I love this because it's really the part of the whole Dave Ramsey thing that I struggle with, and I think a lot of you struggle with, and that is, Dave, you don't know that home prices are going to be up 8% or 7% in the next 12 months. I tell you what, give me that guarantee, and I tell you what, I'll invest with you right now. Not a problem. I got some money I got set aside. I'll put it in there. If you're going to guarantee me that this house is going to go up 8%, not a problem, buddy. I'll be happy to do it. What I do agree with him on is the interest rate part. Now, everybody's concerned that they don't want to buy a house because interest rates are too high and they think they're going to come down. Here's the problem. If you didn't buy last year, interest rates were say 5.5%, and now they're 7.3. Didn't help you. And over time, it not necessarily is it going to go in the same direction you wanted to go. So waiting isn't going to necessarily help. So I never let interest rates get in the way with me buying a home or not, because worst case scenario is interest rates have gone up over the next 12 months. And instead of getting in at 7.3, I can only get at 8.5. Maybe I can't afford the house that I want to buy now. Now I know the thought process is if interest rates are going up, the value of the home is going to go down. So I can get it at a cheaper price. Okay. That's a big gamble, especially with what Dave is saying, and that we do have a very interesting market right now where we do have not enough supply for the demand. I personally think the demand side of this is going to change very quickly for a lot of different reasons. And some of you have seen my other videos. You'll understand what I'm saying here. I think you've had a lot of builders overbuilding, and that's coming on the market here in the next 12 to 18 months. I think you have a lot of larger cities that are converting office space that is not being used, that was sold at a major discount in the last 12 to 18 months. They're converting that into rentals. I think you have a lot of rental home or properties that are being built that, again, people may not be looking to buy at this point because they can't afford. They can't get qualified for the house they want, so they have to rent. So I think a lot more supply in the housing is coming in the market. And I think with student loans coming in, with interest rates where they are for car loans, for houses, I think it's going to really lower the number of people out in the market. So I think you're going to have an increase in supply and a decrease in demand. And you're going to get, at least on a short-term squeeze, where the home prices at least stay or go down. More importantly, what I want to focus on is this. Now, he says that interest rates or the increase in the home values are 7-8% a year. Once again, please show me your data, Dave. I'd love to see the data on this, because this is from the United States Home Prices Index, year over year. Okay. And this is just by month. Okay. We don't see all that often where it's at 8% or higher. In fact, the vast majority of times you go to the max, it's nowhere near that. The vast majority of the time, it's well under. Now, if you want to say 5, I'll give you 5. I'm not taking 7 or 8, not going to happen. Most people think of 3.5, 3.5, which again, I don't want to get into a debate with them, but I think it's inappropriate to be out there telling people that you're going to get a 7 or 8% return on your money on real estate just by owning it. Again, I don't see that happening. But the bigger part of this that I want to focus on, and the reason I mentioned the 2006 thing with Warren Buffett, is that generally speaking, there's an 18-year real estate cycle. And again, we can debate whether or not the cycle is exactly 7 or 8%, 18 years, and which section is 2 years or 4 years or 8 years or whatever. And again, there's a lot of different ideas on this one. I wanted to focus on this one because it really just shows what I'm talking about here, is that there is an expansion period, there's a peak period, there's a recession period, and there's a recovery, and then the recovery starts back to expansion, okay? It's really quite simple. And it is roughly 18 years. Let's see. If Buffett was talking about in 2006 and to 2024 is happening, again, maybe my math is off, but that kind of seems to add up to the 18-year cycle, which again, when you go back to the prices, look at this bubble here. Those are big numbers. Where else do we see those numbers? I don't see them going back even on the 25-year chart. We don't have years where they're up those numbers. It can't continue to stay up that way. Okay. It's going to come down. Now, whether it comes down to the 2, 3, 4%, don't know. But my point is, it's going to be coming back around the other way. I do think we have a small bubble coming, nothing like 07, 08. I'm starting to see cracks in the second home market, the vacation home market, the Airbnb market, and some of these guys who've hyper leveraged their real estate to the point where it's not supportable. And I think that's going to continue to happen into the next 12, maybe even 2 years, because I think you're going to see the student loans become a problem, the regular real estate home prices become a problem for people because of interest rates being higher, car payments being higher, and inflation just eating at everybody's portfolios and their income to the point where they can't afford to do all those things. So you're not going to be able to support a $2,000 rental house on a 1,200 square foot home in certain areas. Now, again, this is a broad spectrum. It may not be for your specific area, but I do think there are some areas that are going to see some major hits. Now, take South Carolina, for instance. We had a ton of people move down here from Connecticut, New Jersey, Vermont. And up there, they had a big spike in values as well. You had a bunch of people up there that bought 20 some years ago for $300,000 on a house that's now worth $700,000. They owe $100,000 on us. They have $600,000 in equity. They come down to South Carolina and they paid $400,000 for a house, paying cash. And they still got $200,000 left over. They don't care whether they paid $400 or $425 or $430. They're not getting a mortgage. But what it also did is it raised all the prices of everything else around it. People wanted to compete. And the homes probably weren't worth that price. You see some of these markets where if the average was up 20%, again, you've got some markets that were up 2 and others that were up 30 or 40. Okay. The markets that went up the highest are the ones that are going to come down the most, just like Buffett said. And there's other markets that probably aren't going to see much of an effect of this at all. But overall, it's going to average itself out. So I do think you're going to see a bubble in the Airbnb. I do think you're going to see a bubble in the second home market. And I think you're going to see some selling and you're going to see some pain in those marketplaces. But on your main house, just stick with what you've got. Keep it there. If it's something you can afford or you can stay there, I don't see any major selling out of that unless there's a bigger issue with unemployment and people have a jobs problem, which I don't see coming. I see unemployment going up a little bit more, but I don't see it going up to 7, 8, 10% where people are going to be just running out of their homes. So assuming that doesn't happen, I don't think you're going to see it have a major effect on the actual residential homes of your regular homes. Again, not investment type homes. So over the next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, again, there might be a little bit of a downturn where you buy something today for $300,000 and tomorrow it's only worth $270,000. But if you just stick with it, you'll be fine in a couple of years. It'll catch back up. And again, follow the cycle. It's not real complicated. We might be in that peak of that cycle where it's starting to come back down. Okay, we are. So what? It'll go back the other direction and eventually go back higher, just like stocks, just like everything else. Everything's got an up and a down, which is why I don't like telling everybody they're going to make 7% in a year. It doesn't work that way. Cycles are cycles for a reason. Talk to your real estate agents, your local ones, so they understand the current markets. What it might be is there's some really good opportunities out there over the next 12 to 18 months, maybe 2 years. As some of this stuff filters through the market, you might be able to get yourself a second home. Instead of paying $600,000, you might be able to pay $400,000 for it. Who knows? But don't bet on it. Okay? If you can find a deal, you get a deal, get it. Again, talk to your real estate agents, talk to your financial advisors, make sure your portfolios and your money are all set in the right direction. Don't overexpand yourself. Don't over leverage yourself. You don't need to. Dickie out.